Welcome to Beyond the Fundamentals. Today we are talking about immigration, the perspective you haven't heard. Now, this is not typically a topic that we cover on this channel. We typically don't do stuff like this. But since we're doing growth and transformation in relationships, this is relevant, and it can be a good case in point, a good teachable moment of maybe how to apply some good sense making in the midst of a current event. Like, what would that look like, and how would one look into the systems of what is going on rather than be caught up in the surface of what we're talking about. I want to start off to be very clear about this. Very clear. Listen closely. Viewer discretion is advised. This presentation contains graphic descriptions of exploitation, abuse, and violence related to illegal immigration. It is intended for mature audiences only, and it is not suitable for children. Viewer discretion is strongly advised. I want to start off by talking about a concept called kayfabe. Kayfabe in professional wrestling is the portrayal of staged events within the industry as real or true. Specifically, competition, rivalries, and relationships between participants. This isn't just a political fight, what you see going on with immigration and illegal immigration. It's kayfabe. Much of the outrage, rivalry, and protests surrounding immigration enforcement is theater. A scripted conflict that distracts from what's really going on. Like in professional wrestling, the characters are loud, the lines are clear, but the audience picks sides. But behind the curtain, cartels, private traffickers operate, exploitation continues, and U.S. lawmakers are incentivized to enable the behavior, all unchallenged. The real victims aren't in the spotlight. They're in the shadows, trapped in a system too many are too distracted to see. And even though it's kayfabe and even though it's staged theater, there are many people out there who are taking up banners and that sort of thing, who they really think it's real, and they are filling a role. They're signing up to fill a role in the kayfabe, a character role in the kayfabe. I will be a protester. But at the same time, I also don't want to overlook, there's a lot of evidence also that some of the people who are protesting these things are paid to be there. They really don't have skin in the game. They don't care. They're being paid $150 a day to be there. So that's something to bear in mind also. Now, the perspective that we have here, to be clear, to be crystal clear, number one, we want people here who are honestly looking for a better life. We're not those people who are like, oh, get out, this is our country, not yours, nothing like that. We want you here. We want them here. Okay, I want to be very clear about that. The reason we're doing this is because we want them here safely. Okay? We want them here. Third thing, illegal systems subject participants to severe and cruel exploitation, and we don't want to see that happen. We want them here safely. We don't want them to be exploited. And I want to encourage you, the viewer, do not get caught up in the surface level rivalry and the team sports aspects of these kinds of issues, and look at the bigger picture. One of the things that frustrates me is to hear people talk about oh, you're just against immigration, and they don't make a distinction between legal and illegal immigration. And if you support illegal immigration, what you're really supporting is the exploitation of the people who are subjected to that pipeline of getting here. That's what you're really supporting, exploitation. And there's some very naive things said by some religious leaders, things like this. Pope Francis has passed on now, but he says, it's hypocrisy to call yourself a Christian and chase away a refugee or someone seeking help, someone who is hungry or thirsty, toss out someone who is in need of my help. If I say I'm a Christian but do these things, I'm a hypocrite. And so, to be very clear, this is a very naive statement to try to trivialize something that is much deeper than this. So to be clear, we don't want to turn anybody away. We do want them here. We just don't want them to be exploited along the way. And so for somebody to post this in the context of a debate of illegal immigration happening in the U.S. is disingenuous and naive, because what they don't realize is when you do something immediately, and we'll cover this in a few minutes, but when you do something immediately, some kind of impulsive empathy, you may be inadvertently incentivizing an exploitative system, which is very, very bad for a whole lot of people. So we're not trying to turn away anybody that's hungry or in need or who is looking for a better life. Not trying to do that at all. But there are multiple other things at play that need to be tended to when it comes to this issue. So we're going to look at them. So we have here people are posting this around the internet as a meme from a quote from Pope Francis. And here's interestingly a quote from John Pavlovitz with a picture of Thomas Merton, which is a strange combination here. But he says, since the evangelicals love to quote Leviticus so much, and if a man from another country is living in your land with you, do not make life hard for him. Let him be to you as one of your countrymen, and have love for him as for yourself. And they're aiming this at, typically what would be considered political conservatives, as if conservatives don't want people here, which is not the case. So when we're arresting people, it's not that we don't want the individuals here who actually mean well in good faith. We actually want them to not be exploited, and we want to put an end and stop incentivizing the whole systems that are built up around exploiting people. And I'll show you what I mean in a few minutes. And so people posting stuff like this, no one loves Mexico more than those who refuse to live here. And so don't get caught up in all these protest things. All this surface level stuff where people are protesting and rioting, don't take sides at that level. That is the wrong side at which to do things. That is all kayfabe. And yeah, some people are signing on to that, but that's just kayfabe. That's not the real issue. What we want to do today is look at the real issue. This one I thought was just kind of funny. This Ben Affleck meme, liberals having to find an Iranian flag right after they replaced their Palestine flag with a Mexican flag after they replaced their Ukrainian flag with a trans flag. Here's another one I've seen floating around the internet when you have to call ICE on your Latina girlfriend. That's the guy from Family Guy here, shedding a tear there. Impulsive empathy, such as giving money to beggars at the stoplight, for example. Impulsive empathy and can enable a set of habits and processes and systems that have a narrowing effect on well-being and on affordance of choice. And on this channel, we talk about love being the affordance of choice and not just an opportunity or a limited set of menu options, but generalized increased optionality, such as what physical fitness or education does for a person. Okay? Increased optionality, affordance of choice. That's love. Incentivizing behavior that results in unfavorable circumstances is a form of prolonged cruelty and is likely also an expression of naivety with regard to scammers and bad faith actors. It tickles the conscience of shallow thinkers to acutely alleviate immediate perceived needs, but lack of awareness of the deeper need is no excuse to participate in perpetuating systemic cycles of unhealthy behaviors. When people are out there asking for money on the street, for example, they could be scammers, or if they're really in the down and outs, you're enabling behaviors that got them there. You're perpetuating the cycles of habits and behaviors that got them there in the first place. So there's a problem that while it may ease your conscience in the immediate to give them something, there's a deeper problem that really needs to be addressed that cannot be fixed at a street corner. So I want to extend a golden bridge out to there are people typically people who are in favor of illegal immigrants are typically also anti-capitalist. I know that's not always the case, but I just want to use capitalism as an example, okay? What we are encouraging here is regulation for the exact same reason that it is good to regulate capitalism. When you don't regulate capitalism, here are the top 10 things that will happen if you have capitalism, but it is not regulated. You will wind up with child labor. Without regulation, companies historically hired children to work in factories, mines, and fields, often in dangerous conditions for long hours and low pay. Number 2, you have unsafe working conditions. In the absence of labor laws, employers could force people to work in hazardous environments with no safety gear, ventilation, or medical protections. Number 3, wage theft and indentured servitude. Employers could pay workers below subsistence wages or not at all. In some cases, workers were trapped in debt cycles, especially immigrants. Number 4, no health care, no workers' rights. In an unregulated system, workers injured on the job could be fired, discarded, or left to die, no insurance, no support. 5, monopoly and price gouging. Unregulated capitalism often leads to monopolies which can manipulate prices, crush small competitors, and exploit consumers. 6, environmental destruction. Without regulations, businesses have historically dumped toxic waste, deforested land, and polluted water sources, harming local communities. Number 7, exploitation of the poor and desperate. Predatory lenders, company stores, and abusive landlords have all thrived under laissez-faire capitalism, trapping the poor in cycles of dependence. 8, sexual exploitation and harassment. Power imbalances in workplaces led to widespread unchecked sexual harassment and coercion, especially where workers had no voice or recourse. Number 9, corrupt political influence. Big corporations have historically bought politicians, distorting democracy to protect their profits. And number 10, the lack of consumer protections. In unregulated markets, unsafe products, fraud, and false advertising flourished, hurting people and eroding trust. So I think that we can agree here that completely unregulated capitalism can lead to some very, very bad things. And we could also agree that regulating something like capitalism is necessary to prevent this kind of exploitation. And what I'm going to present to you today, what I'm going to submit to you today, is that if you are in favor of regulated capitalism for the exact same reasons and more, you should also be in favor of regulated immigration to protect people. Not because we don't want them here, but because we want them protected as they come here. That's the reason. I'm going to give you some information that I got off the Sean Ryan show. Somebody sent me this episode. That's not a show that I typically listen to. I'm not necessarily against it. I just never heard of it until somebody sent me this episode of the border chief czar, whatever he's called. Tom Homan is being interviewed here. He's been with Customs and Border Patrol since 1984. And I might get some of the institutions or law enforcement agencies incorrect when I'm talking. I'm not necessarily an expert in any of these things. I was just an Army guy. So forgive me if I don't say some acronym correctly or whatever. I'm not trying to misrepresent anything. I just don't know. So you'll notice that episode is 3 hours long. So of course we're not going to cover everything that's in that episode, but I'm showing it to you to let you know where you can go listen for more information. You can go listen to this for yourself on your own time, but we're going to distill down some things that we get from this and some of our own sense making here, which I think is also very important. So that's SRS. The episode is number 200, Tom Homan, the U.S. Border Czar. So you can go listen to that episode whenever you get a chance to. So I want to start off by saying the number one rule in life, anywhere, for any time, anywhere, in any situation, is incentives and rewards. You always get more of what you incentivize by rewarding it. Whatever you reward, you will get more of. Okay? Any economist knows this. And when it comes to relationship dynamics, parenting, tax codes, whatever you reward, you will get more of. Whatever you incentivize with rewards, you will get more of. And so what we don't want to do is incentivize exploitation. So let's look at a few things that happen while people are trying to come here illegally. Now notice, think about this. If you were in, say, the mob or something, Italian mafia, something like that, some of those TV shows, when everybody's operating outside of the law, who do you call when something goes wrong? You don't. You just have bricks tied to your feet and get thrown into the river to drown. That's what happens to you. Okay? Just bad things happen and there's no recourse. When we encourage illegal immigration, we're putting people in a situation like that where, since they're operating outside of the law, there's nobody to call. There's no recourse when things go wrong and when it's time to get exploited. There's nobody to turn to. We don't want people to be in that situation. And when you encourage illegal immigration, that's what's being encouraged. What happens when people are on the way over here illegally? Number one, remember, what slide is this? Number 19. Remember, viewer discretion is advised. This presentation contains graphic descriptions of exploitation, abuse, and violence related to illegal immigration. It's intended for mature audiences only and not suitable for children. Viewer discretion is strongly advised. So if you are a child or don't want to hear this stuff, now's the time to leave the video. Number one, sexual exploitation and rape. Women and girls, including a 9-year-old, raped by cartel members as a condition of passage. Some are raped repeatedly by multiple men during the journey. They have rape trees, where they're used by smugglers to hang victims' underwear as trophies. A 22-month-old girl was raped in all orifices by multiple men before drowning. Some female victims are found with broken ankles after being raped, preventing them from seeking help. The girl was found with her underwear around her ankles, and her ankles were broken so that she couldn't run for help after she was raped. That's the kind of exploitation that people face when they're on their way here illegally. We're supporting illegal immigration. That's what we are encouraging, that kind of thing to happen. Number two, death by abandonment and exposure. And these aren't in any particular order. They're just numbered so we can refer to them. Number two, death by abandonment or exposure. Migrants, including children, are left to die in the desert or locked in trailers with no ventilation or water. A 5-year-old boy died in a sealed truck trailer reaching 175 degrees after begging to live. Bodies are frequently found in counties like Brooks County, Texas. Victims drown in rivers after being thrown overboard by smugglers to escape law enforcement. Number three, human trafficking and forced labor. Migrants unable to pay smuggling fees are forced into sex work or labor in factories, ranches, or brothels. Some women held in Asian massage parlors had their passports confiscated and were forced into prostitution. Children released to sponsors by the U.S. government were later found in forced labor situations. Many smuggling debts are structured to never be fully paid off. And so I probably mentioned this elsewhere, but the smuggling debts will be like, I know, okay, it's $5,000 and we'll get you to the border. Well, the next coyote that picks them up, they want $5,000 more. And when they don't get it, they'll say, okay, you can work off your $5,000 when you get to the United States, wherever you're going. You can sell our drugs, and you can sell our drugs until we decided that you have paid us back. And so you have somebody who, for all intents and purposes, may genuinely just trying to be getting here for a better life, but now they're in this situation where they must engage in criminal activity, or these cartels are threatening to kill their family and hunt them down and kill them too if they don't do what they're told. That's the exploitation that we're trying to avoid. Ransom and torture. Number four, smugglers kidnap migrants, demand ransom, and torture them on phone calls to pressure relatives. Victims are found hogtied with duct tape covering their heads, and they're left to suffocate or die. In Phoenix, groups attacked each other for migrant loads due to high black market value. Number five, economic extortion by cartels. Every crossing is taxed by cartels. Refusal leads to threats or murder. So, in other words, crossing the border is regulated by somebody. It can either be regulated by the government or by these cartels, by these criminal organizations. Somebody's going to regulate it. Somebody's going to control it. Who do we want it to be? The cartels or the governments? Think about that. People don't think. Economic extortion by cartels. Every crossing is taxed by cartels. Refusal leads to threats or murder. Higher fees are charged for migrants who don't want to be processed, like criminals or terrorists. Cartels charge fees to let migrants pass through their zones, often collecting multiple payments along the way. Oh, you already paid once. Well, you got to pay again, because if you don't, we'll kill you. What choice do you have? Number six. They use as decoys or distractions. Migrants are. Cartels intentionally throw families or children into rivers, knowing Border Patrol will attempt to rescue them, letting traffickers escape. Some smugglers use children as bait, knowing their presence will shift law enforcement resources. Number 7. False identities and gang infiltration. Gang members from MS-13 and TDA enter by passing as unaccompanied minors or family members. Many claim to be underage or related to children to exploit asylum loopholes. Number 8. Government policy failures and complicity. 300,000 plus migrant children released to sponsors can no longer be located. Many sponsors were not fingerprinted or vetted. Some sold children into trafficking. Lack of DNA testing and background checks enabled widespread fraud and exploitation. Number 9, psychological devastation. Survivors, especially children, experience lifelong trauma, loss of trust, innocence, and safety. Victims like the 9-year-old rape survivor were described as having no faith in humanity after what they endured. Number 10, death is a financial and operational risk. Smugglers abandon sick or dying migrants knowing they won't get paid for them. Traffickers see people as disposable cargo. If injured, sick, or burdensome, they are left behind. So for Pope Francis to say, if I say I'm a Christian but turn away the refugee or the hungry, I'm a hypocrite. But what if in the name of compassion, we unknowingly enable one of the most exploitative systems in the world? See, we have systems for asylum and for refugee status. We have that. And we have a legal immigration system. Why? Because we don't want people to be exploited like we just discovered. So for somebody to frame it like Pope Francis is being attributed to framing it here, I didn't hear him say that myself, but I have no reason to doubt that he would say this, is to miss the point of why this kind of thing would be regulated. By the way, have you ever noticed the enormous walls around the Vatican and the high amount of security they exercise with regard to who can come in and how long they can stay? It is very hypocritical for such a highly secured country to criticize another country for securing its borders. So my thesis is that we want immigrants here. We don't want to turn anyone away, but we want them safe, free, and unexploited. Illegal immigration is not a victimless act. It is not unregulated. It is regulated by cartels who profit through rape, murder, extortion, and forced labor. Legal immigration exists to protect people, not to keep them out. Most debates about immigration are stuck in the shallow end. People focus on who gets let in or who gets deported, but they miss the deeper picture. This isn't just about individuals, it's about the system behind it. A system that rewards cruelty, empowers cartels, and exploits the vulnerable. To understand what's really happening, we have to look beyond the headlines and follow the incentives into the second and third order consequences that nobody is talking about. So the first rule of incentives is you get more of what you reward. That's the rule number 1 that I just discussed earlier. That's the number 1 rule of life, is rewards and incentives. You get more of what you incentivize by rewards. Allowing people who enter illegally to stay rewards the cartels who brought them here. It tells them, keep going. The system works. Migrants pay thousands to coyotes. When they can't pay, cartels enslave them, making them sell drugs or traffic others. Women and children are raped. Some die in containers or deserts. That is not compassion. That is enabling cruelty. Number 2, illegal does not mean unregulated. It means cartel-regulated. When governments back off, the criminal underground steps in. We regulate capitalism because unregulated markets exploit the weak. We regulate immigration for the same reason, to protect people from traffickers, slave labor, and sexual violence. And then second order consequences. Myopic compassion is still cruelty. In other words, you want to immediately alleviate your own conscience by expressing some kind of impulsive empathy toward a person who's in an unfortunate situation. But it's still cruelty to the to enable the system that's doing these committing these exploitative acts. When we focus only on the person in front of us, we miss the larger pattern. Each successful illegal entry invites 10 more, each one paying a cartel. That money funds more drugs, more trafficking, more death, and the cycle continues. Deportation in this context isn't punishment. It's a message to the criminal system: your services don't work here anymore. It's not about hate. It's about love and justice. We want immigrants, but we want them to come legally, safely, without fear of rape or extortion, without losing their children to heat or drowning, without owing their soul to a cartel. The legal system isn't the enemy. The cartels are. The conclusion of these points here so far: if you really care about refugees, asylum seekers, and immigrants, don't cheer for illegal immigration. Cheer for reform. Cheer for safety. Cheer for a system that protects human dignity start to finish. Love is not a loophole for lawlessness. True love protects. And so on this slide, I have analogies that come along with each one of the reasons that we would regulate capitalism. Children are exploited by coyotes, traffickers, and we see migrants working on farms and kitchens and sweatshops with zero oversight. So there's an analogy for each one of these reasons we would regulate capitalism, for the same reasons we want to regulate immigration. I know somebody who is involved with, what is it called? I keep wanting to call it Operation Roundup, but it's called Operation At Large, where law enforcement agencies have been dispatched, and they're all working together over on the West Coast mostly, as far as I understand. They're basically rounding up or arresting all of the illegal immigrants for whom there is already an outstanding arrest warrant, and they're rounding them up. And I was talking with one of my buddies who he's telling me what's going on over there, because he's in the middle of it. He's one of the people that's arresting folks and all that. And he was outside of a detention center, and he sent me a photo of it. And I said, I bet it smells like bad guys out there. And his response was, considering the most upstanding guy we've picked up, had 6 DUI convictions, had been arrested at least a dozen times for DUI, had a suspended license, and we picked him up driving to work with a beer in the cup holder. Yeah, sure. Anyone locked up in there is worse. LOL. So that's the kind of people that they're dealing with. This is the most upstanding guy they've picked up. Everyone else is worse. Illegal immigration isn't just a regional crisis, it is a global problem. According to Tom Homan, people from 181 different countries have been apprehended at the U.S.-Mexico border. This isn't just about Mexico or Central America, it's a global migration funnel controlled by criminal cartels who charge desperate people from all over the world to risk everything, no matter their nationality. And you think they're all just desperate coming here because they want a better life? Many of them are. Many of them are not. How do we tell the difference? I know the writing on this is small, but I wanted to include this portion of the transcript of that video verbatim to give an idea of what's going on. We want to talk about some of the stuff that's been coming through the border and how that happens and the motivation behind it and all the stuff that the cartels are in, and then which is more of your, I think it's more of your previous life when you were a special agent. This is the interviewer talking to Tom Homan. So when you talk about these little girls getting raped, coming across, and little boys dying, and they're getting locked in these Connex boxes with no air and 100 degrees plus weather, I mean, where does all this initiate from? And what countries are using cartels to funnel them in? People under Joe Biden arrested people from 180 different countries. That's almost every country in the world. I should have looked this up before I started recording, but I think there's like 193 countries, 191, something like that. I can't remember the exact number, but 181, that's pretty close to all of them. The whole world came to this country because they knew you could get across the border, get released within 24 hours, get a free plane ride to the city of your choice, get a free hotel room, get a free plane ride. Well, I already said free plane ride to the city of your choice. I think he said it twice in the video too. Free hotel room, free meals a day, and free medical care. And then he said, actually, I think it was 181 different countries. Are the cartels facilitating all of this? Oh, absolutely. Criminal cartels like the, Jalisco cartels, the New Generation, some of these cartels are in 45 countries around the world. They're in 45 countries. Some of these cartels are in 45 countries around the world. They're in 45. Like the Chinese. Record number of Chinese came across. There's no way tens of thousands of Chinese nationals left China and got to the United States without coordination of a Chinese government. It doesn't happen. Chinese organized crime. Same with Venezuela. But once you get to Mexico, the criminal cartels, they have operational patrol of the southern border. No one's crossing the southern border of the United States without paying the criminal cartels a plaza fees at a minimum. Because, and I don't know how accurate this transcript is, this one came off their website. But you get the idea. Because you go to their area of operation, you either pay their fees or they'll kill you. They had operational control of the southern border. Matter of fact, under Biden, I thought the numerous border control chiefs who would tell you that we no longer have operational control of the southern border that criminal cartels do. They decide what's coming across, when it's coming across, where it's coming across. I thought the one chief patrol agent who used to turn me broken arrow, I said, dude, that's over the top. He goes, no, it isn't. I'm maybe catching 10% of what's coming across the border. He goes, I'm overwhelmed. Groups are coming across every day that I can't go or can't get. I'm not sure what he was supposed to say there. But you get the idea that there's the border is very porous, and it's not just people coming over here wanting a better life. The fact that the border is porous is incentivizing a lot of malicious threat actors to come in and do their thing as well. And then we facilitate and enable it. So when we put all this together, what do we have? Here's my conclusion. Okay. Compassion with clarity. We are a nation built by immigrants. And we want more people to join us, but we want them to arrive through a system that protects them, not one that preys on their desperation. Illegal immigration isn't just a policy debate. It's a pipeline of exploitation run by violent cartels, fueled by false promises, and sustained by short-sighted politics. If we truly care about immigrants, we must stop rewarding the systems that harm them and exploit them. Legal immigration is not a barrier, it's a lifeline. And preserving that line means refusing to empower the traffickers who profit from human suffering. Real compassion sees the whole system, and it works to dismantle the cruelty that's hiding in plain sight. And people talk to me sometimes and they will say, well, don't you want, your house cleaner? Your house cleaner couldn't be here if it wasn't for illegal immigration, that kind of thing. Well, I had a house cleaner named Marbella one time. And you know what? I want Marbella to be here. Marbella does she's here trying to have a job, make her way, and live the American dream. More power to her. Let's go. Problem is, for every Marbella, there is also Marbella's cousins or sister or children that got raped and exploited and didn't make it. So not only do we want Marbella here, but we want Marbella here safely. We want her here without being exploited along the way, without having some kind of criminal debt to pay to a cartel somewhere, and we don't want her to lose family members unnecessarily along the trip either. Okay? Because that's what's happening. So we got no problem with Marbella. We got problems with what happens to her as she's on the way here, and what happens to her family members who didn't make it, and what happens to some of them. So we're going to go ahead and end right there. If you like what you're seeing here, you can support Beyond the Fundamentals at beyondthefundamentals.com on the donate page. And there's 5 different ways to contribute electronically if you'd like to see more content like this or like some of our other content. If you want to help us keep going, that is the best way to do it by far. Okay, time is money, and the more support we have, the more time we can use to produce content like this and like some of our other content. You can follow us at Beyond the Fundamentals Facebook page and on X, formerly known as Twitter. Remember to subscribe to the Beyond the Fundamentals channel and to BTF Grow and Relate. Hit the bell icon, share our videos, and thumbs up this video if you like it. Also, we have one-on-one consultations available if you would like to take any of the domains in which we have built fluency on these channels over the years and apply them to your specific personal situation. We can do that. Go to the home page, scroll down, and you can book a one-on-one paid consultation with me to review your situation. So that's also available. So thanks for watching this video. Shoot me an email, leave a message, let me know what you think. Tell me if you have any questions or if you have any stories to add to what we've said here. Thanks for watching. May the Lord bless you, and good day.